But the thing is, he's right about that. It is ideological. It's steeped in the ideology of pro-life, pro-Catholic, pro-family, pro-God-ism, right? And his buddy, Cardinal Arthur Roche, he says that the theology of the church has changed, which it has. This is very exciting news. He says that the theology of the church has changed. Before, says Roche, the priest represented all the people, but he alone was celebrating the Mass. Today, it's not only the priest who celebrates the liturgy, but also all those baptized people in the church. Exactly right, Eminence. Lex orandi, lex credendi. Vatican II changed how Catholics worship in order to change how Catholics believe. And did it work? Well, it depends if you're a modernist or not. From their point of view, to destroy the church, it seems to have worked brilliantly, right? Just look at that long blue line on your screen, plummeting down, down, down. Cardinal Roche is right. Cardinal Roche is also right when he says that the traditional Latin Mass movement undermines the revolution of Vatican II.
So Francis was very clear in the letter that he wrote to all the bishops when he introduced these changes, and it was very simple that effectively this has become a movement undermining the Second Vatican Council.
So I'm only half kidding. At the Catholic Identity Conference this year, we will present statements of full-on agreement with what Team Francis is saying. It is a new religion, isn't it? They have created a new religion. And tradition, Catholic tradition, stands directly in the path of that religion, which is why they're trying to get rid of it. It always has. Tradition has always stood in the path of modernism and novelty, hasn't it? It stood in the way, for example, of revolution in 16th century England, didn't it? When the English Catholic men of Cornwall, Devon, and Dorset rebelled against the Act of Uniformity, which was also about unifying the realm, right? They stood against that act in the Western Uprising.
The Western Rebellion of 1549, otherwise known as the Prayer Book Rebellion, was the first serious rebellion in the reign of Edward VI. Now, it originally could be seen to have originated in Cornwall, where basically there was discontent with the rise of Protestantism following the death of Henry VIII. In Devon, the rising had started due to the locals objecting to the use of the new prayer book, which was incredibly radical, the Book of Common Prayer, and insisted the priests say Mass in the old style, in Latin, etc.
Their battle cry? It's the Mass that matters, right? That's what was on their lips as they died, as they were slaughtered, as they were martyred for the old religion, rather than accept the new order, the Novus Ordo, of Thomas Cranmer. 200 years later, some 500,000 traditional Catholics in the Vendée would do the same thing. 200 years after that, they did the exact same thing. They stood for altar and throne against a Novus Ordo. Outlaw priests offered outlawed masses in the woods of the Vendée under the cover of night. They gave their lives rather than betray the church during a reign of terror which saw Catholic kings, queens, priests, and nuns slaughtered in the streets of Paris. The Vendéans were the original guardians of tradition, and their flags were emblazoned with the Sacred Heart of Jesus because Saint Louis-Marie Grignon de Montfort had planted the faith so deeply in the Vendée that some 500,000 Catholics fought and died for it. Oh, you see what we're getting at? You can pick your favorite revolution, anti-Catholic revolution. It's always the same thing. What stands in the way? Tradition stands in the way. Down in Mexico in the 1920s, not that long ago, when once again traditional Catholics stood in the way. We're talking about the Cristeros. They stood in the way of a Masonic revolution against Catholic tradition.
This threat will not be tolerated.
Would they really kick out an old man like me?
The Federalists are coming! They're coming!
Does that look familiar?
There will be
It's the same today, same revolution, only now we got modernists bulldozing sanctuaries, right? Modernists inside the church, smashing up the altars and the statues. It's the modernist revolution, carrying on the same revolution, the same Masonic revolution against Christ's church that's been going on for a long, long time. When I was a kid, in fact, they were even out there making movies about it. I don't know how many of you might remember the movie called The Catholics, wherein Martin Sheen, a young Martin Sheen, plays a modernist priest who's sent from the Vatican to shut down the Latin Mass because, well, it's a threat to unity.
The Latin Mass
I'd rather like to see one again, wouldn't you?
I must confess, sir, I really don't remember it.
Don't you? The priest with his back to the congregation, the vestments. Introibo ad altare Dei, and the bell and the sanctus ita missa est. How can one forget? And now, that old mass is packing tourists in over there in Ireland. Charter flights from London, Boston, Los Angeles, pilgrimages from France, Germany, even Bella Italia. I think it's a cliche to say it was to be expected. Even Vatican IV cannot bury 2,000 years in a few decades. Get that old fool down off that mountain, James. And if he gives you any trouble, fight him.
I mean, we did nothing to start all this. We've been going over to the mainland and saying Mass every Sunday the way we always did. In Latin. The way we were brought up to say it. With the priest and the people facing the altar. But, I mean, what you're giving us now, there's no mystery about that at all. I mean, it's only a mockery as far as I'm concerned. A sing-song, because you're not talking to Almighty God, you're talking to your neighbor, and that's why it's in English.
So yeah, it's called the Catholics. And basically, whole sections of it look like dramatizations of Traditionis Custodes. It's very weird how much it resembles what we're going through right now. And the point is, tonight, it's all happening again right now. None of this is new. Francis isn't new. Francis didn't invent anything. Francis couldn't invent anything, I'm afraid. He doesn't really have a lot of original thoughts. He just does what he's told. So this is not, friends, this movement. This is not about liturgical preferences. It never has been. It never will be. It's not because we like the Latin. It's because they're at war with Christ. That's the problem, at war with Christ and his church. It's all about the ape of God. And now, in our time, recent years, you really can see it clearly. It's all about what happens when evil men banish God and then reinvent the world in the image and likeness of hell on earth.
The first thing we see here is an array of cameras that listen to you and watch.